Jason Statham had his 1966 Shelby Cobra 427 stolen. But it wasn't just a car. It was part of his soul. What seemed like a simple theft unraveled into a dark conspiracy led by a former special operations commander. One by one, Jason hunted down those responsible, but in the end he discovered the worst betrayal didn't come with blood. It came with memories. In the silent hours of a Los Angeles night, the city sleeps, but he doesn't. Jason Statham, a man long accustomed to losing sleep, walks alone down a deserted downtown street. The neon lights of a diner flicker in the distance. A rusty sign creaks in the wind. In his hand, he holds the key to a car that's no longer there. The silence is heavy. In front of the parking lot, nothing but emptiness. His car, his 1966 Shelby Cobra 427, the last piece of the past he swore to protect, is gone. And with it, the memories. Memories of his father, of youth, of days when driving meant freedom, not escape. Jason doesn't scream. He just takes a deep breath, closes his eyes, and when he opens them again, something has changed. This isn't just about a car. This is a declaration of war. The next morning comes slowly, wrapped in fog. Jason drives his old Dodge Charger through East LA's back streets, eyes locked on the rearview mirror. He's not running. He's hunting. The police aren't involved. They can't be. Jason has too many enemies with badges. He visits a junkyard hidden beneath a concrete bridge. An old mechanic, without saying a word, nods toward the back of the warehouse. There, Jason finds a license plate, the Shelby's plate, ripped off, dirty, but intact. Someone wanted him to know where to start. At the back of the warehouse, beside a cracked wall, something is scrawled in charcoal. If you want it back, come and get it. Warehouse 39, West Coast. Jason smiles, but it's not just any smile. It's that silent grin that comes right before the storm. Warehouse 39. A warehouse in the port, forgotten by everyone, except those who live outside the law. Inside, Jason finds the first member of the gang, a young, tattooed thief with apathetic eyes. He has Jason's watch on his wrist, the watch that was inside the car. Jason walks up to him. The thief prepares himself, confident, but there is no fight, just 5 seconds, a quick and precise sequence of blows. The boy is on the ground, without strength, without teeth. Jason crouches, grabs the watch, looks straight at the security camera in the corner of the warehouse. He knows they are watching. He wants them to see. Jason follows the trail, a biker bar in San Bernardino. Red lights. People who don't talk, they just watch. He sits, orders coffee. The waitress recognizes him, not as an actor, but as the man who once took down 3 gang members using only a pen and a lighter. In the back of the bar, 2 men stand up. One of them, bald, massive, ex-military. He's the second on the list. Jason doesn't wait. The fight starts in the bathroom. Cracked tiles. A broken door. Blood on the mirror. But it's not the punch that matters. It's what the second man says before blacking out. You shouldn't be here. The man behind this. He was trained like you. Jason stops. For the first time, and he hesitates. Someone like him. Jason wasn't the kind of man who asked questions. He observed, waited, and when necessary, struck. And now, he had a name. Trey. The first link in the chain. The guy who drove the van that hauled away his car the night it was stolen. A low-level thief with a military past and a criminal record that was almost clean. Almost. Jason found him where every rat hides when they think they're safe. A forgotten junkyard on the outskirts of Cleveland. The night was thick and muggy. The distant sound of passing trains echoed faintly, adding a restless pulse to the air. Jason approached slowly, the crunch of gravel under his boots the only warning. Trey was welding scrap, unaware, hiding behind a false sense of anonymity. Jason didn't announce himself. He simply stood there, watching the man work, steady hands, a sweaty face, and no idea that this would be his last night of freedom. When Trey finally noticed him, the shock was unmistakable. He tried to say something, maybe an excuse, maybe a taunt, but Jason just walked toward him with slow, deliberate steps. The kind of steps from someone who doesn't need to rush when justice is already overdue. The fight was fast, brutal. Dry, echoing blows shattered the ghostly stillness of the metal warehouse. Jason wasn't asking where the car was. He wanted Trey to feel it, to feel what it was like to be hunted, to feel the fear he had spread to others, to feel the truth. Vengeance was coming, and it didn't wear a hood. It wore a familiar face. Before passing out, Trey gave up a name. Marla. A dangerous woman operating from the shadows, responsible for trading stolen vehicles for weapons and dirty money. More than an accomplice, Marla was the cold mind behind the gang's logistics. Jason knew what came next. More trails, more confrontations. But now he wasn't just chasing down a car. He was uncovering a network, and every thread led to something bigger. He walked out of the junkyard without looking back. Trey was still alive, barely, but that was just the beginning. And Jason had no intention of stopping until everything was brought into the light. Night had fallen over Route 66 like a veil of smoke and loneliness. The streetlights flickered intermittently, and the distant sound of engines tearing across the asphalt was muffled by the dry desert wind. Jason drove alone, his old pickup truck devouring the miles with firm determination, while his eyes scanned the road with surgical precision. He knew this wasn't just a chase. It was a trap being built, and he was walking right into it. On the old radio, a soft country song from the 70s played low. Jason didn't sing, didn't smile, just listened, as if the melody carried memories of a time when he still believed in peace. A time before the blood, the loss, before vengeance became his only compass. Then on the horizon, something shimmered, a pair of headlights, then another, and more after that. Jason eased off the gas, his fingers tightening around the wheel. They were waiting. This wasn't coincidence. It wasn't chance. It was the final warning. At the next bend, the road narrowed, and there, like ghosts emerging from the shadows, 3 cars blocked the path. Men stepped out slowly, weapons drawn, walking in formation, confident. Jason stopped the truck in the middle of the road, turned off the engine and stepped out with no hurry. The gravel beneath his boots cracked like brittle bones. The silence was deafening. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to make the same mistake everyone else had, underestimating a man with nothing left to lose. The leader of the ambush, a man with a scarred jaw and eyes as cold as steel, signaled with his head. Jason noticed the small details, the way his fingers trembled slightly, the sweat running down his temples. They were armed, but not ready. The fight lasted less than 40 seconds. One of the thugs rushed forward. Jason sidestepped, twisted his body, and snapped the man's arm with a clean move. Another tried to shoot, too late. Jason was already behind him, disarming and dropping him with a sharp blow to the neck. The third hesitated. That was enough. A punch to the sternum, another to the chin, and the man collapsed. The leader, now alone, tried to run, but the desert isn't kind to cowards. Jason caught up to him in seconds, dragging him back to the road like a trophy of despair. Without a word, he stared into the man's eyes and let the fear do the rest. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than any threat. There, on that forgotten highway, Jason left behind a trail of bodies, dust, and a single message. He wouldn't stop. And next was the commander. The final lead brought him to a place he knew all too well. The old warehouse where he had trained during his special ops days. It was symbolic, almost poetic. The commander was waiting there, as if he knew the end was coming. Inside the warehouse, time seemed frozen. Peeling walls, a floor stained with old blood and the sweat of men who once learned to kill side by side. Jason walked slowly, every step echoing like a lament from the past. And in the center, he appeared. The man behind it all. The commander. Dressed in black, eyes tired, and a faint, bitter smile. There were no more disguises. He didn't deny anything. On the contrary, he seemed almost proud. Jason stopped a few feet away. They stared at each other for long seconds. Soldiers who had once shared battles. Brothers who had buried teammates side by side. Now, enemies. There were no words. There was no space for them. The fight began. Unlike all the others, this one was personal, brutal, uncontrolled. Two men trained to kill, each knowing the other's weaknesses. The exchange of blows was violent but intimate, as if every punch carried years of unspoken resentment, hidden betrayals, invisible scars. Jason took hits, but he struck back. The floor was painted with blood. Breathing grew heavy, but he didn't back down. He never backed down. Then in one final rotation, Jason grabbed the ex-commander's arm and locked it. They fell to the ground rolling, until Jason emerged on top, pressing down on the man's neck with the weight of every year of buried pain. The commander didn't beg. Jason didn't hesitate. But he didn't kill him. Revenge, he realized, wasn't about killing. It was about making the enemy live with what he'd become. A few nights later, in a roadside diner, Jason sat alone in front of a cup of cold coffee. No one there knew who he was, just a man with a hardened face and distant eyes. He stared out at the road through a foggy window, while a slow song played on the jukebox. The waitress brought him another cup. He nodded silently in thanks. The battle was over, but the war inside him? Maybe not. Because there are wounds time doesn't heal. It only teaches you how to live with them. Have you ever seen a story like this? If this journey held your attention until now, leave a comment below. We want to know what you think. Click the like button so YouTube knows this is the kind of story you want more of. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Because in the stories to come, the intensity only gets higher.